I'm Chelsea Newton from Sparrow Financial. We're excited to start our virtual workshop where we're going to learn the importance of financial planning. Our presentation this afternoon is led by Micah Valentine from Pinnacle Wealth Management. Pinnacle Wealth Management is a trusted name in the upstate region with 35 years of industry experience. And Sparrow Financial recommends Pinnacle Wealth Management to our members for their diverse investment solutions, such as tax planning, investment planning, financial planning, and retirement planning. They have a dedicated team of advisors who are committed to helping you craft an investment strategy that's going to align with your financial goals and offer those personalized solutions to help you achieve them. So Micah, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Chelsea. Thanks for that introduction. I really appreciate it. Thanks for partnership with Sparrow Financial. Thank you guys who could be here with us and also watching this on record. Today's presentation is titled Aim for Your Best Financial Life with a Plan. It's really kind of targeted for the 20s and 30s, if you will, the millennials. But what we're going to do is kind of touch on a couple of broad topics. This is probably going to be about a 30-minute talk. And any questions at the end, we're glad to answer. So with that, we'll go ahead and get right into it. And again, my name is Micah Valentine with Pinnacle Wealth Management, and I'm with my business partner, Robbie Davis, and we're here in the Malden, South Carolina physical office, but we're here in the greater Greenville area. So thank you guys again for being here. So our agenda today is kind of 5 parts. Millennials and the need for financial planning, establishing a budget and to stick with it, managing credit cards wisely, becoming an investor, and taking full advantage of your workplace retirement plan. So if you will, it's kind of a progression through life in the financial field. First, let's talk about why financial planning is important for people in their 20s or 30s. So let's kick off thinking about considering a few facts and figures that are important for financial planning for millennials particularly. 3.75 million millennials owe student loan debt. Again, this was as of last year, 2023. The average balance that's owed is between 20 and 40,000. Obviously, I've seen and talked to people that are a lot greater than that, some are less. Home ownership rates obviously are lag behind on Gen X and baby boomers. Roughly 1/4 of millennials believe they'll be forever renters. Less than half of millennials believe they're on track to hit their retirement savings goals. And these are really real figures because I have these conversations daily. One thing is to enjoy the journey. When you add your current economic factors like the super high inflation that we're currently in, the rising interest rates, it can make obtaining a mortgage more expensive. The financial challenges that millennials may face to get ahead and become even more challenging. Our educational overview hopefully will help you become more familiar with the basics of financial planning and start to help take control with wherever you're at on that journey. We're going to offer you ways to help improve your financial life, whether it's through budgeting, debt management, investing, retirement planning, or some other area. Again, everybody's situation is completely different, so just to kind of keep that perspective. So the 5-step process here is during the time that of your life, you're likely going to be busy building your career, establishing your career, building new relationships, enjoying your activities with friends and family. Really just trying to figure out how to navigate through the challenges and the opportunities. So the 5 steps we look at here are kind of define your goals, write those down, figure out what they are, short-term, long-term, we'll kind of get into that in a bit. Know what your income is, and we'll look at what that really looks like. Your monthly expenses, create a realistic budget, and revisit your goals and expenses on at least annual basis. So step 1 about defining your goals. Financial goals should be both short-term and long-term, because kind of what I've alluded to earlier. Here are just some basic examples of short-term goals. Obviously, saving for a vacation, which we were kind of talking about that earlier. Chelsea and I were. You've got purchasing your latest Apple Watch, upgrading your furniture, buying furniture, saving for a wedding, starting an emergency fund. Just to name a few. Long-term goals are going to be buy a house if you're renting, pay off your student loan debt, buy a franchise, start a business if that's in your desire. Build an emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses. And if you desire to retire early, at what age would that look like for you guys? Again, everything's completely different for folks. But again, write down your financial goals and make sure they're measurable. What that means is to include the actual dollar amount and the time frame for reaching your goals. So, like for an example, if you want to say save $1,000 in emergency fund, you want to do it over 10 months. You will literally just divide that $1,000 by 10 months and know that you have to save for your goal $100 a month, or paying off $3,000 of credit card balance in 18 months, contributing 8% to a company retirement plan or whatever that is, or increasing your retirement contributions every January. Again, small goals that will help you on your journey. Step 2 is really knowing what your income is. And what I mean by that is net income, not gross. Hey, I make $50,000 a year, but what do you really make? What do you bring home? What hits your bank at the end of the day? Because that's what you pay your bills off of. It's not the number that you're paid a salary. It's what you actually take home. And from a budgeting standpoint, you can't budget until you actually know how much money you actually bring home. So say you actually bring home $3,000 a month. I'm just going to throw that number out there. You need to look to see, okay, well, how much can I budget for groceries? What's my rent, my utilities, entertainment, credit cards? You kind of see some of these other bullet points here. Write those out because those are going to be net numbers that you're having to pay after the fact. So say your bills are coming up and it's $3,200, then we got a problem. You need to try to peel that back. Well, if you're looking to rent somewhere or whatnot, then maybe you need to try to figure out where you can rent for cheaper. Or if your entertainment eating out cost is too high, you got to find ways to cut there. But again, you got to work through that based on your net numbers. And also remember, going back here, remember that including the expense, there's going to be stuff that comes up: doctor's appointments, dentist visits, insurance payments, haircuts, manicures, gifts for folks for Christmas, holidays, birthdays. So these are things that I see a lot of time are left out from a budgeting standpoint. So I would tell you to kind of look through and kind of put a general category for that as well. Again, the step 4 is creating a realistic budget. We kind of talked through the monthly income. From step 2, your living expenses, your financial goals. Again, there's a lot of budgeting tools out there, and I'll kind of say this: any budgeting tool that you have is only as good as you actually following through and doing it, and then revisiting it and sticking with it. And as far as revisiting your goals and expenses, again, this is something that from a financial planning standpoint, we work with our clients. We work with them in the aspect of every year, we want to look at those. Okay, say they're paying down some debts and they're doing some savings. Obviously, things change from year to year. We like to do that and rework based on your time frame. So say you want to retire at 55, but you're paying down on your student loans and maybe a mortgage or a car, but you get an increase in your pay. There's a lot of things that changes every year. That's why I said it's a moving target. So you really need to be involved with looking at things on an annual basis when it comes to your expenses and your budgeting. But this is very important, obviously, building an emergency fund. That way, if something comes up, you're not having to go to the credit card to pay for a new refrigerator or whatever it is. So they kind of rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Kind of back to what we looked at. Keeping money in an accessible account, like at Sparrow, the money market account or savings account, something that would be easily accessible, and using the funds when needed, not a credit card. Again, credit card, that's an area we try to discourage from going to. Obviously, that's why we feel that building your emergency fund should be one of your first goals as far as getting there. Speaking of credit cards, managing credit cards wisely. Now, I'd like to talk about something very closely connected to the success and failure budgets. That's the need to manage your credit cards wisely. Without a doubt, credit cards can make life more convenient, especially in today's world where everything's on the card, tap and go, but not necessarily easier. More often, it's the most expensive debt you'll have. The interest rates that they charge, it's easy. You run your charges throughout the month. You don't realize you spent more than you did. So again, review your statements regularly to keep your purchases in check. Pay your bills on time to avoid your late fees. Pay off your full balance every month to avoid paying interest. Take advantage of your rewards programs. There's a lot of great rewards programs, especially like to travel and do things like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to research and look at out there. So just kind of keeping that in mind too. Again, protect yourself from credit card fraud by putting a freeze on your credit bureau records. There's been a lot of fraud and scams out there, unfortunately. So just be vigilant and looking at your statements on a regular basis and seeing what type of protection plan you have with those credit cards. Here's some bad habits to avoid: using your credit card to make ends meet. Again, these are things that me from a life I've lived through and done. So I've done a lot of things you shouldn't do. So again, using your credit cards to make ends meet, using several cards at a time, not researching other options before applying, exceeding 25% of your credit limit, using your rewards program as an excuse to buy more stuff. Yeah, don't use the rewards program to buy more stuff when you can't afford to pay it off at the end of the month. Make large purchases unless you can pay off the balance quickly. So kind of factoring in, say you do need to go buy furniture. If you have a plan to finance it over 24 months or whatever it is, knowing what that payment's going to be and knowing that you've got the budget item to cover that where it's going to be okay for you. Maintain a favorable credit history, especially in your 20s and 30s and 40s. Having a good credit at this stage and building good credit is very, very, very important. Look up, know your FICO score. There's a lot of different sources out there. The top three obviously are Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Have a lower score can keep you from qualifying for a mortgage or a car loan. Also, it can create a lot more expense where you don't get as good of rates when you're looking for the car loans or your home loans, to where it can be very, very expensive. Potential employers often do check your credit score depending on what type of job you're going into. The better your credit score, the more likely you are to have your loan approved and receive lower interest rates. So again, talk with the local Sparrow offices and folks, because they've got a lot of great sources there to kind of talk through. If you're looking for car loans, absolutely, or whatever type of loan options there. They're very, very well qualified, I would say, to go and have that look as well. They got a lot of great sources through being members of Sparrow. Tactical tips: improving your credit score. Make payments automatic to avoid late fees. So that's one thing. It's easy if you get busy to miss something. So just making sure you're set up to where they can automatically pay those balances every month. If you miss payments, get current and stay current. One of the biggest things you don't want to have is have late fees on your credit history. That'll ding you pretty bad. So keep that in mind to make sure. Again, but keep up. There's a good website here. It's myfico.com /credit education. If you want to take a look at that, give you a couple better tips there. Now we're getting into where we feel we really can help from Pinnacle Wealth side of things, working with folks, becoming an investor. When to take the plunge. I know we've talked enough about all the challenges of spending money for now, so let's try to teach you something more exciting, actually saving money. One of the biggest opportunities you have to build personal wealth and financial wellness is through investing. But again, that's a broad topic. So where do you start? What does that look like? Since investing always includes some risks, it's important to know that you have a solid foundation, which is why we talked about things before you begin. Here are some key things to make sure you're covered, to make sure you're ready. Make sure you have a steady income. You have money left over after meeting your financial obligations. You consider that the effect of upcoming personal changes such as marriage, children, divorce. Again, people say, "Oh, I don't wait to have kids before I can afford them." You'll never have them. Again, it's all about a balance. It's a planning step. You built up your savings, including your 3 to 6 months. You hit a lot of the check list items before establishing an investment account. Stock mutual funds, and ETFs. I mean, there's a lot of terms out there. I mean, we're inundated with information and investing today more so than ever. When you own it from an investment standpoint, there's two different ways. You either own investments or you loan your investment. So stock or stock mutual funds or ETFs, you actually own. Like, say you bought Amazon stock. You are actually an owner of that company. So you own part of Amazon when you own that company, or if you own mutual funds that have equity stocks, and you actually have ownership in them. If you bought, sold on exchanges, there's higher return potential, but again, there's higher risk involved with equities, with stocks. Again, just having a conversation and looking at that to make sure you're invested appropriately. Here's the bond mutual funds. This is where you're lending your money. Think of a CD. You're getting an interest rate in return, but you're lending your money. They're holding your money, and in exchange, you're getting interest rates, like on a bonds as well. It's a lot more moderate potential for risk. It's less risk. It's appropriate for funding medium terms. But again, with any of these, it's a good balance to make sure you have not all on one side or the other, but just trying to make sure you have a good balance inside of that. Just making sure that you're saving that side. Cash equivalents, again, you're talking about money market funds, T-bills, lower risk stuff, appropriate for shorter term goals. Where I like to talk to 20 and 30-year-olds is talking about where you're going to invest. What it comes down to is you're investing in your 401k at work, and I think we may get to that in a minute. You're getting a match, hopefully, at your job, whether say they're putting 3 or 4 or 5% in, and you're putting your 5% in, or whatever it is. So you're getting that match. But inside of that, making sure you're invested and you're doing that as much as possible. Outside of that, making sure if you have extra money outside of even doing that, then you have the Roth or the Roth IRA option, which is where you can invest money up to this year, $7,000 per year. That will grow tax-free for you in the future. So again, these are great investment options that you can talk with me or a business partner about if you're at that point where you like to talk about investing outside of your 401k, or if you're setting up your 401k. Again, just have a conversation with us. We'd love to help you. So again, that's what we do. From an investment standpoint, you're going to look at what do you need? How much risk are you willing to take? What are your goals? I mean, say you're 25 or 30 and you want to have a house, and you want to, you have a long-term goal. You're going to have short-term and long-term goals that we talked about. Just sitting down and having it was not a long conversation, just kind of talk through that. And then obviously the biggest place where folks are saving for retirement or investing, or where you get involved first, is going to be through your company 401k. We do see a lot of folks that don't take advantage of that. What I mean is, obviously, it's the easiest way to become an investor. It's the biggest and best opportunity to achieve your financial wellness, because 401k started in 1978. Before that, they had pension plans at most workplaces where you retired and you get your pension and your Social Security. Fast forward today, and pensions are almost non-existent, and 401ks are the overwhelming major way for folks to save for retirement. But again, it's just out there. If you're not doing it, and you're not increasing it, and you're not paying attention to what you're investing in, and you're not doing enough, that can be very detrimental to your long-term plans. That's why I say the 401k is very, very, very important. And if they're offering a match at a company and you're not even contributing to the plan, then you're losing out on free money. So again, easy. A lot of companies have these plans. I mean, there's a lot of options. But if your company does not offer 401k, this doesn't mean you can't save on your own. That's where you can kind of talk to us to see what other investment options are there, like I mentioned with the Roth or whatever. The thing with the 401ks is you put the money, it comes right out of your check, you never see it, right into the investments, and it buys it on a weekly, bi-weekly, however often you're paid basis. It usually reduces your taxes if you're on a pre-tax 401k account, even before taxes. Again, so that can help you save. Here's a little example about tax savings and stuff. Again, free money courtesy of your employer match. We talked about that. Companies are doing that, and if your company is not, again, let's look at other options than the 401k. But again, it's usually 50 cents for each dollar you put in, up to a certain percentage. And then we talked outside of the 401k, there's two different kind of options you can do depending on what you qualify for, either a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. These are individual retirement accounts. That would be what you would be saving for retirement outside of your 401k or outside of your company plan. These are what options you can do on your own or with a financial professional. So simply put, the traditional, you put, say, $5,000 into it per year, you can write that off on your taxes that year. So you get your benefit on your taxes now. The Roth IRA, it's after taxes. Say you put $5,000 into the Roth, you don't get to write that off on your taxes this year, but the benefit of the Roth long term, say you put $5,000 in this year and you never do it again and you go to retire down the road, that $5,000 now worth $10,000 or $15,000. That money is accessible to you completely tax-free, federal and state. You don't have to pay any taxes on the gains or the growth if you've held it past a certain period of time. Again, the Roth options may be more favorable for younger folks. That's why I'm kind of mentioning that here. It can really, really be a big benefit for folks to do. And inside a lot of the 401ks now, kind of a side note, a lot of 401ks are offering Roth 401k options where you can put money in and do the same thing as your Roth IRA. You just don't get the tax benefits. Again, when in doubt, when in questions, that's worth a conversation to a financial professional. Please reach out to us if you just want to bounce some questions off about that. We'd be glad to, again, talk through it, see if it makes sense for you to do one over the other. We do that all the time. And this is going to talk more about target date funds. When you get your 401ks, I mean, what options do you have invested in? Do they put you in just a standard, they'll show like a retirement fund, 2055, based on your age, it'll put you in a fund. We can talk through that and look at that. They're kind of an easy place to put money, but if there's other options, we'd be glad to look at those with you inside those plans. Again, every 401k plan is completely different. So what they have available inside of them, you may have some better options or more appropriate options for you guys. So again, just have a conversation with us about that. Back to the individual retirement accounts, you're going to use it. If you are self-employed, maybe you have your own company, there are options to do your own retirement accounts through like a SEP or a simple IRA. We can help with those, obviously, and help you set those up, or we can give you guidance on how you can set them up. There's a lot of different options here just to kind of walk through, you kind of see them listed there. Now, the legal side, executing essential legal documents, wills, living wills, medical, healthcare power of attorneys, durable financial power of attorneys. This is important, I think, for everyone. People say, I don't have any assets, or I rent, I don't have anything. Having a simple will, just kind of labeled out, can be very, very helpful. You don't need to get a big trust or anything like that. But again, I'm not an attorney, but I've got a lot of folks here locally that we work with and connect with. And if you have any questions about anything in this area, this is kind of getting more into some things that are pretty important later on in life. So if you got an elderly parent or something like that, having the medical and durable powers of attorneys. But we can walk through that as well, again, just to have a conversation. Insurance coverage. Okay, this is the side where your property and casualty insurance, your home, and look at that every year. I'm not an insurance property casualty person. We do obviously life and health, but inside of that, you need to be looking at your auto insurance, homeowners insurance every year. I personally work with an independent agent, and we look at it to see if it's the best value every time. They're increasing. Insurance is very, very expensive. But it's something I think you definitely need to look at. Life insurance. So say you do get married or you do have a child. A lot of companies will offer life insurance through your company, like 2 or 3 or 4 times your salary. And they're good to have. What I would encourage folks is if you have that, you're younger, you're establishing a family, make sure you have insurance outside of your work. Because if you ever leave that company, that insurance doesn't go with you. So have your own insurance. And I'm talking if you're younger, in your 20s and 30s, term insurance is great. It's cheap. It's for a certain period of time. We obviously have 16 or 17 companies that we work with, and we shop to see what the rates are. But again, insurance has actually come down a little bit in the life insurance side of things, depending on what your needs are. But again, making sure you have the right coverage for life insurance. Again, this is something that needs to be looked at every year as life changes. Say you have no kids, you have 1 or 2, or you buy a house and you're married. I mean, there's a lot of circumstances that can change to affect that, but absolutely review your life insurance coverage as far as plan. And then your disability insurance, if you have some through your group coverage, through work, that's great. Somewhere happy to you. Or if you're self-employed, very, very important to have some coverage in that area. Again, is all part of like a planning side of things. So again, this is kind of a tactical tips. You're determining your savings goals and how much to achieve. Again, looking at between a Roth or traditional, create your investment strategy, and balancing retirement with your financial goals.